this you never heard.
All right. Welcome to week 28 of What Did Prince Do This Week? It's a rainy day in Jersey City, so I thought I'd play a song that you've never heard called Rainstorm. And this song is a song written by the one and only Atlanta Bliss. And it also features our beloved Eric Leeds. So it's a vibe. So hopefully you guys will get into it. As we start.
I thought this was something entirely different.
What did you think it
sounds
was?
Like for a second, it sounded like Making Love in the Rain with Herb Albert.
Yeah. No. I think you'll like it. We'll see. All right. So week 28 of What Did Prince Do This Week? We got a lot of folks in the chat. As always, we have the one and only and beautiful Cassandra Bradley first in the chat. We lost a purple true funk soldier this week. Rest in purple heaven to the one and only irresistible Rich Cranmore. So I personally didn't know Rich. I didn't interface with Rich. Did you, Michael Dean?
No, but I knew who he was. Like I definitely knew, you always see his name and the pictures and stuff. So yeah, much respect. Him. Rest in peace, man. It's a heavy blow.
Yes. And we got another from Kimberly. Rest in peace to Rich Cranmore, who was a huge part of the Purple community. And we also have Melvin Rush, Mr. Rich Cranmore, heaven. We wish Brother Cranmore heaven and condolences to his immediate family. So, indeed. We also have Real Line the DJ. Good morning. We have Drea Dances. Just tuning in for a few minutes before heading to the airport on my way to Nice, France for the Under the Cherry Moon excursion. Oh my God, I really wish I could join you guys. It seems like Tammy and crew had an amazing time last year. They're doing it again this year. This is one of my favorite parts. So excited.
Y'all be safe out there and have a good time, man.
Yeah, that's actually, that is correct. Be safe. It's so important to be safe. And we have April from Tampa. And we got Melvin Rush II saying, in a good way, how's the fam? Professor D'Angelo. And Professor Michael Dean. That's right. Oh, let's get it, dearly beloved. Might not know it now, but baby, I am a star. Thank you for that. Love that. All right. We got Nick Felden, who did their reading. Ice cream castles in the summertime. And we got Andre Staley from Detroit. What up, though? And let's see, we got Tanja all through the ice cream castles. All right, and we got Sister Charles from Stormy Rainy Houston. So this actually is a song for you as well. Rainstorm is the name of what we're listening to right now. We got my literature brother, Blade Brown. Morning, fam. We got our timekeeper. Yes, Kim. We're not going to run out of time because we got short reading today. And we got Men Ray 10. Yes, it's a purple rainy day in Brooklyn. That's why we kind of playing this like chill vibe today. It's not raining.
It's raining over there?
Yeah, it's raining.
No, it's like 90 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, it's been crazy last week.
I thought it always rains in Seattle.
No, that's Southern California. See,
tell me.
Yeah. Now that's kind of a myth, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's overcast and gray a lot. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I got Ricky in the chat. Ricky, did you check your email? I emailed you many times. Don't you want to come on and join us to talk about the time?
Cutting, Rick.
We cutting. Where you be? Ricky, I hope you're listening because I did this last week and you didn't come on last week either. So, okay. Purple lightning in the building. Okay. Welcome, Audra. It's always nice to have you here. Yes, April TP. Happy Saturday. And yes, sending condolences to Rich Cranmore's family and friends. And we got Ronald in the house from Maryland. As always, we have Anna B. Thank
Ronald,
you.
I'm sorry. Go back to Ronald real quick.
Yes.
For a quick second, man, he looked like excuse my language. He looked like that nigga Dads. My dog. You know.
Okay.
Ta-da! All right. Anyway.
Ta-da! Thank you, Anna B. Actually, I didn't even do anything to it. I just did that whoop whoop whoop. Like I don't have time, so this is my I don't have time to pull it down here. And then we got JD Washington.
JD.
Yes, always a pleasure to have you here. Love your avatar photo of the coffee cup. I got to show.
What's the JD stand for?
Yeah, what does it like? Yeah, what does that stand for? This is my coffee cup that I had someone hand delivered to me from LA, because this is a coffee cup from Quentin Tarantino's new coffee shop that's called Pam's Coffee, like in honor of Pam Grier, the one and only. So I had to. I love all things Pam Grier because she's amazing. All right. And then we got Arlene. Yes. Watch out for the restaurant bats when in Nice.
Hilarious.
You only know what Arlene is talking about if you've seen the amazing film Under the Cherry Moon. So if you don't know what that's all about, the bats, you got to watch Under the Cherry Moon, and then you will be in the know. And then we got Sitnick Productions, props and pounds to every. And then let's see, we got Purple Cat Confetti, we got Raywin, we got Lisa Williams from H-Town, we got Maria, and let's see, did I miss anybody? Okay, I gotta say, the return of Daddy Pop, so we got to make sure that we give Daddy Pop all the love. So thank you, Raywin, for pointing out Daddy Pop is your song, Pop, Daddy Pop. Mm-hmm. That's right. And we got Jesse in the house. Peace and blessings to you. And then let's see. Blade Brown said it's been raining like Seattle in my area since yesterday. And we got Barbara Y. You're never late. Welcome. And we got Mooches. Good afternoon. We got Chip and Sparrow from Japan. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I have on, you're very observant. I have on my Jamie Starr shirt. That's right. That's what it's all about. Oh, thank you, JD. JD stands for John David. All right. And then we got Mr. Oshun in the house. And yes, we got to do some bonjour to some of our listeners who are in Nice, France. We're heading to Nice, France for the Under the Cherry Moon experience. I really wish you guys could join. Well, I wish I could join you guys, but I spent all my money. So we got El Michelle. Yes, not mad at all. All right, Ricky's going to come on. That's what I'm talking about. And we got Theo in the house. Welcome.
What up, Theo?
Have you here? And we also have Rodney, the one and only from Chocolate City. That's right. Chocolate. Yeah, that's right. And we got Red Cat Up Rock. All right. So I'm sure other folks will be joining us, but the regulars, everybody, the fam is in the house. So we're going to get this party started. Let's see if I know how to use StreamYard. Nope, I still don't. Okay. So we're at week 28 of What Did Prince Do This Week? And this is a very slow read. That's what I'm talking about. All right, hold on. We got the one only. Look, coming in with the bass.
Coming in with the bass. Like I was just playing for a minute. Then stop playing.
Hey man, good morning everybody. What's up?
Good morning, Ricky.
I want to interrupt you jamming,
Nah, man, celebrating ice cream castles.
That's right. That's right.
Celebrating ice cream castles.
Yeah, but we can't talk about ice cream castles without you, Ricky. So
well, thank you.
Yeah. I know that you couldn't make the symposium. So I was like, we gotta have Ricky on so you can talk about ice cream castle.
Ice cream castles in the summertime.
Yep. And Blade Brown says you've been putting those 10,000 hours in.
I'm trying to, brother. I'm trying to.
Yeah. That's right. And Nick Felden says, I see Ricky with a 5-string bass.
5.
Mm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
Why don't you go ahead and drop a little funk on us real quick?
No, man, it's not plugged up, so you probably have a hard time hearing it. But one of these days I will, though. One of these days.
Shit, like we would have been dope if we'd have cut right to you. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, look, I tell you what, one of these days I'll do that and you be the front man.
okay.
Calling the cues.
I'm gonna walk in. You can be like Brown Mark and look at the watch. You're late. They left. Where's D'Angelo?
Yeah.
Tell him I'm rehearsing. Now.
That'll be classic.
Oh my God.
Hey, man, you know what's crazy about that scene? Brown Mark was there with his shirt off, and then when they did the performance, he still had the same gear on, no shirt.
Yeah, he was
rim tilted to the side. He sure was. Oh man.
Anyway.
All right, we're super excited because we're going to talk about Ice Cream Castles. Like anytime you can talk about Ice Cream Castle, you got to get excited. So let's get through this housekeeping with the quickness, and I'll try to do it super fast. All right, we're going week to week, not day to day. You can follow detailed schedule at this QR code or bit.ly link. You do not need the expanded edition, but that's what we are looking at. Ricky, where's your book? Okay.
Yeah, I was rushing. Give me a minute. I'll be right back. Hold tight.
All right, hold tight. Okay, and then
it's still a book club, right?
You are quick today, Michael Dean. You are all about it. All right, these will be archived on YouTube at Polished Solid, as well as at M. Dean. Please, I'm down on my knees. Subscribe, like, and help spread the word for What Did Prince Do This Week? Because it's all about Prince. And then our hashtag is WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week? All right. And the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This Week book club series, nor that's all we need to say. And this is an independent endeavor. So what we were playing was a song from a CD aura. Do you remember CD auras? Michael
CD
Dean?
auras?
Yes. You remember
that sounds familiar.
So
I remember that format. Yeah.
So CDR, I'm not being funny. There was a format called CDR where you could actually record things to a CD. So this
I thought you were being funny. I thought you were just adding a little bit. A CDR.
No, CDR. So you can record on the CD. We're trying to. You wanted us to educate the youth.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm trying to do. There we go.
Portable CD. Oh, we got the book.
We got the book. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So this song was actually from a CDR that Atlanta Bliss gave my husband back in the 90s. So this was probably not many people have heard this unless you got one of those CDRs from Atlanta. And this is Atlanta's this is the cover of the CDR. So this is his signature, which is super cool. And let's check out who's playing. The song we played was called Rainforest because it's raining where we are. And Atlanta Bliss was on the electric trumpet. We had Eric Leeds on the tenor sax and keyboards. On the keyboards, Eric was really playing those keyboards. And then we had H.B. Bennett on drums. And we're going to come back to that.
Madhouse alum.
Yes. And then we're also going to have Marty Koffler on guitar, Jerry Malega, if I'm saying that right, electric piano, and Mike Hulis on bass. So when I saw the name H.B. Bennett, I was like, that name sounds really familiar. So we got Madhouse, and then also H.B. Bennett appeared on Lines, which is my favorite song off of Eric Leeds' Times Square, which was composed by Eric Leeds and Matt Bliston, which is also Atlanta Bliss. So there you go. That's okay. Now we're cooking with grease, as they say, because we got one more folk joining us on the virtual stage.
The gang's all here.
Really? That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have a curfew? Because I know you'd be super busy on Saturday.
Yeah, y'all got me for about an hour and a half. I got to run Monica to the airport, so I can hang for a minute.
Okay, well, I don't think that we're going to be here probably longer than that, but I could be wrong. Yes, Dr. Claus, we got electric trumpet. And see, Michael Dean, Theo says, I am now educated. I have never heard of a CDR. See, you're making fun of me. I was trying to educate the youth.
Well, no, just you're right. Well, that's dope. That's dope.
Yes. So a long time ago, you could like buy a stack of CDs and you could like, that's how we created our playlist back in the day. We would, just.
Well, let me ask you. Do you want to see a CDR or DVDR?
Hilarious.
Yes, that's right.
These are all blank CDs where I can record digital stuff. And these are actually blank DVDs. And if you look closer, these are 240 minutes. So you can actually put 2 hours worth of video on these. And so what I did was I put all my Prince video and all my Prince TV appearances in an order. So I got all that on my DVD. These are DVD-R plus, by the way. And then these are CDR. So yes, so there you go. We back to your regular program show.
The bigger question is, sir, you still have those today? Like, is that a brand new pack you got there with the?
Let me tell you, I'm all in case something new come out I ain't got. I'm ready to edit and upgrade.
Lord. There you go. My man said I ain't dealing with no digital storage. I'm going hard.
So for instance, I have on DVD every Prince appearance, every Prince television appearance from 1980 to the last one, I think Saturday Night Live, and I got them in 2-hour blocks. So in case a better version come out, I can upload that version, download it to the DVD, stick it right in the player, in the Blu-ray. In fact, hold on. I just thought about it when I said that. I can even make Blu-ray. These are blank Blu-ray. So I can even do blank
Blu-ray too?
Yeah, I can do blank Blu-ray. If I don't want to take a chance to move my camera, but right here to the right of my system, I got a special Blu-ray burner. So all this does is burn Blu-rays.
Nice. Now you give me flashbacks, man.
See, we need to go work for the estate.
Right, the archivist.
Yeah, you go work for the estate, brother.
My man, hey man, salute.
Payroll.
Salute to you burning discs. I love it.
Yes. Okay. So correction. Theo said that they didn't know what those were, but they didn't know what the name was.
No. Okay.
So there you go. That's what's going on. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Week 28. What did Prince do this week? What we know. And this week.
What page are we on?
We're going to get there in a hot second. Oh, okay. Zero new songs and 0 studio visits. This is what's in the book. And it's basically a 12-inch mix of Erotic City on Sunday, the release of Ice Cream Castle on Monday, and then Prince went to go see the Jackson's Victory Tour on Saturday. So that's what we see. About that. That's what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to
the Triumph and the Victory Tour. I saw the 81 Triumph Tour and I saw the 84 Victory Tour. And I'm here to tell you that the 81 Triumph Tour is musically better than the 84 Triumph Tour. And you can actually find the 81 Triumph Tour, just the audio. The video's online too, but if you just listen to the audio of the 81 Triumph Tour, that is some masterful playing and singing. And I'm gonna show you how old I am. Not only did I go to that concert, my uncle had that audio of the concert on reel to reel. Wow. So we used to listen to the 81 Triumph Tour on reel to reel. So yeah, so 2 great tours. I said it.
No, you were exactly right. I recently found that on YouTube or something. I was listening to it. Was it like Soundboard or something crazy? Like, yep. It's dope. Like,
yeah. They didn't they sell like, I know like there's like a Jackson's Live album from that Triumph Tour.
That's it, 81. That's it, the Jackson Live album. And here's a little known fact, which is kind of interesting. The Triumph Tour, 81 Triumph Tour, was technically the tour for Off the Wall. Mm-hmm. And the 84 Victory Tour was technically the tour for
Thriller.
Thriller. And that is what really caused the final tension between Mike and the brothers, because he wanted to tour Thriller, but Joe made him go on that tour. And basically by the end of that tour, they were not speaking. And so yeah, but I always tell people, if you want to line them up to like what tour is what, if you, a lot of people say, well, there was no Thriller tour, there was no Off the Wall tour. Yes, it was. It's just the fact that he had to kind of bring his brothers along on both of those solo tours. That's it. I said.
All right.
So
let's so let's get our reading started. Ricky, I want to let you read this only because I doubt that there's going to be, I know you don't have the expanded edition, but I'm sure it hasn't changed that much. It's page 356 for us, but it might not be that for you. It is Sunday, July 8th, 1984.
All righty. It says Erotic City mixed for 12-inch Sunset Sound, 11 a.m. 4:30. All right. Don't read the quote, right?
Read it. We can read it.
I think he was really ahead of what the 80s were about to become. Bobby Z. 5 hours were spent on creating the 12-inch dance mix version of Erotic City. Although Prince was listed as the engineer, it is unlikely that he attended this session. If he wasn't present, the engineer did the work for him based on written instructions or over the phone while Prince was in Minneapolis. Status, the edited version, 3 minutes and 53 seconds, was released on the B-side of Let's Go Crazy on July 18, 1984. The extended version, 7 minutes, 24 seconds, was released as the B-side for the full-length Let's Go Crazy on August 29th, 1984.
All right, so that's exciting because actually the Status is not in the expanded edition. It's probably because they needed the space for the extra stuff that was added. So you actually gave us a little extra. Thank you so much, Ricky. All right, so
I'm sorry. Give me that page again. I just want to get caught up.
Yeah, 356.
Okay, cool.
356 is the page. So we got to talk about Erotic City. At least, I mean, so Michael Dean and I, we've been talking about Erotic City for a while now. But since we got Ricky here, talk to us about Erotic City. What was Erotic City like for you?
You know, at the time it came out, I thought it was, I didn't think he was going to top that B-side. Like I literally, like 17 Days was already a banger, which I didn't think, it doesn't get much better than that. And then it did. And like, it was kind of like one of those things where during that summer, I think people like, well, hey, they were talking about Purple Rain as if I hadn't heard it. But those of us that had the B-side were like, yeah, but you got to hear this B-side that's out, that's like banging. And even to this day, it's still a banger. Like, like when he opened up the Love Sexy tour, like with that, people lost their minds. Like they were just, he was just in the zone with that one. It was just, he was just in the zone. Like I've heard stories that he, was inspired from a Parliament concert that he had gone to, came back, wrote that or whatever. But it was just, it's just a well done track. It's just, I can't say anything bad about it. I mean, nothing. It was very risque. And they played it on the radio, say the edited version. But it was just, this was the second in his canon of banging B-sides. That they were coming out, or he kind of was building that. He kind of was spoiling us because we were getting used to these banging B-sides like every release. So
yeah, I love what Kim wrote, Undeniable Groove. I mean, like listening to, like, so I had like a religious experience the first time I heard Irresistible B. Like I literally remember where I was, and I have such a really bad memory, but that really made an impact on me. And Erotic City is one of those tunes that just never gets old. Like it was like an instant classic. And one of the things that we forget about Erotic City was like when Prince started, speeding up stuff, like speeding up his voice and speeding up the guitar. And that was like really exciting. And that, just like the guitar line in that track, the undeniable drum programming, everything about that tune, all of my purple light, like the way he was singing it, like Such an amazing track. Like, and what's crazy is that that's just one of a gazillion other amazing tracks. But that's definitely the bar above the bar, as Levi would say. You know, like that's one of the stellar tracks. Like,
Yeah, one of my favorite bass lines by him too. That's one
oh
of the first
yeah,
ones I learned. It's one of the first ones I learned. I can play Erotic City.
yeah. It's crazy. It's simple. It's simple, but it's infectious. And that's one of the things I loved about Prince's bass playing. Like he didn't get, well, sometimes he got crazy, particularly like on the Black album. There's some really crazy bass lines. I mean, like amazingly crazy bass lines. But traditionally, especially like with the time stuff, since we'll be talking about the time, he didn't get too crazy like with the bass lines, but they were so memorable, these bass lines, and they would just like seep into you and just stay. And Erotic City is one of those.
Can I add Erotic City? Looking at it now, I can see like Erotic City to me, it would be like the reminder of, you know, this is the guy who made the 1999 album. This is the guy who did DMSR, you know, when that song would come on back then, it was just like one of those immediate, like, no, you got the jam. This is the cut. And this song is just like another one. This is like, yeah, I'm about to go over into this superstar. I've taken the music to a different level, but like, don't get it twisted. I could have just dropped this as the first single, and this could have been a whole other. This could have been, you know, everything that you loved about me, but even doper. It's like, but I'm gonna just give it to you as a B-side. Like I'm not gonna even really go that direction, but just to show you that I got these bangers. You know what I mean? And to me, it comes off as like, if I wanted to, I could dominate easy if I wanted to, because it's like one of those songs that's just undeniable. You couldn't. I wonder, did Warner Brothers even like know, like, yo, this song is about to be a burner. Like we're not really focusing on it. We're focusing on this main package we got here with the movie, and but this song, you know, Prince had that type of music where like, yo, if you put it out at the right time, the streets and the people are going to jump on this before they even get on the single. Like, you know what I mean? And this was one of them songs, like, you know, like same way if you think of like Adore Later or something, where it's like, wasn't it really the real single? But, you know, the streets, the real Prince, they're going to eat this up, man. Like, you can't even deny that. So that's why I think of Erotic City. It's one of those types of songs to me.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I think we talked about this maybe 3 weeks ago on Black radio and at the Black clubs. Erotic City was treated like the A side, and Let's Go Crazy was treated like the B side.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm 14, 15, so I'm sneaking in the jit joints at the time, and I can tell you that I mean, it's not that Let's Go Crazy didn't get played at the club, but I know that from 84 through 92, there was never a time I went to the club where Erotic City wasn't played. Right. From 84 to 92, there was never a time that Erotic City wasn't played on Black radio. So I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, Brother Dean, that for the streets and for those people who had, particularly people who were Prince fans before Purple Rain, like Erotic City was that sweet side. And I think that goes to just the genius of Prince again, of how he's pairing the B-sides, right? You know, look, Let's Go Crazy is Prince reclaiming rock and roll for Black heritage. Let's be clear what that is. Like, Let's Go Crazy is right out of that's a Little Richard, Chuck Berry groove. That's not a Jimi Hendrix groove. Like, you get the Jimi Hendrix twist at the end, but that is a 4-bar blues rock and roll classic song, right? That is what Andre 3000 was trying to do with Hey Ya. He is trying to bring back, to re-echo Let's Go Crazy. In fact, Prince said nothing had been that fast on radio, and Andre 3000 years later said he wanted something that fast on radio. And so for him to then pair a classic Little Richard, Chuck Berry groove with a classic funk, right? A classic, you know, so you get Parliament Funkadelic on one side, you get Little Richard and Chuck Berry on the other side. This dude was giving us musicology 20 years before he dropped musicology. I'll shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Sure.
There was I love this comment from Dr. Claw that said Erotic City was definitely a beacon to the longtime fans who might have been scared Prince was losing his way. And I think that's a really important comment to point out because I was actually, while I wasn't a long time fan, I only came in on controversy. I wasn't like C. Lee, who had seen multiple tours by then. I had only seen the one tour for 1999. I still was afraid. I was really afraid. And because it was just so, for me, I said this before last week, I think pop, it was like really pop. So Erotic City was that beacon, like Dr. Claus talking about, to let me know, oh, he's still there. Like don't fear. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely was.
And the other thing too is like it didn't seem like it was like you didn't really hear it live, like in the Purple Rain tour. He didn't do that song. I
No,
think the
sure
only
did.
time that you look back now is that birthday show,
Yep.
Yeah,
and it was incredible.
Yep.
Right. So it's just interesting, and I think we've heard the story from like Tony M and that like, that song was gonna maybe be presented with them sort of being in the front, making you think they had something to do it. Like it's just interesting, like that song could have went a whole different. It was what it was, but it's interesting that there was a thought for it to be these guys sort of dancing in front of it, making you think it was a whole other thing. Like it's just very interesting.
yeah,
That the song, and it's a killer song. Like it's
yeah.
Yeah.
I always wonder why he never did that live. I mean, doing the tours. I know Sheila did it.
yeah.
I know because she guested on it, but
Sure.
I always wonder why like he never thought to include that into his set list. Being be,
Mm.
being 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 as big as it was, because I think it may have charted as a B side. Um,
Mm.
not very high, but the fact that say a B side charted is still, tells you just a testament just to how strong the song
You,
was.
you, you know that song kind of reminds to me, and this may sound weird. It'd be like to me if 50 Cent, follow me for a second, if 50 Cent would have had In the Club, and that was his B side to something else.
Yeah,
And it was like that song is a burn. Like you
Yeah.
can't deny that. And
yeah,
it was that to me. That's that type of song. It's like when it comes on, it's a hit no matter what. It always works, and it could be your signature thing. But for Prince, he was so already, established where he could. I can just throw that out there, like,
yeah,
what I'm saying? And then don't really acknowledge it.
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's such a Prince move, though, right?
Yeah.
it's, it's like signature Prince. I want to just recite this comment from JD, and JD saying, "I think it was the Purple Rain tour, but I vaguely recall him playing Erotic City from behind the curtain before the actual show.
Mm.
Might be my failing memory, but that also sounds like something Prince would do." Um, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it. So actually, one thing, because I really wanted you to also come on last week, Ricky, when Michael Dean was kind of talking about Michael Jackson, and also we're going to be talking about Michael again because of the Victory Tour of like the verses, like during high school of
Mhm.
Michael Jackson versus Prince. And I was trying to explain to Michael Dean that there were actual fights, like literal fights. And can you talk about like
No, no,
what?
no. Just to be clear, we
Yes.
know the fights, but you had a brick.
Yeah, I had
That's
a
what I wanted to hear.
yeah. Well, Ricky wasn't there for that, but I had a brick thrown at me. Yes, that is
yeah,
correct. So
yeah,
talk
man.
to us, Ricky, about high
It
school.
it. I mean, see, line, lines were drawn. Clearly, lines they were drawn, and you got to remember, um, Purple Rain came out like during the summer, so like we weren't in school for that, but prior to, and then when school started back, it was kind of evident because the Purple Yoda was blowing up, and so you had your usuals who were diehards, ride or die, and then you had some new people jumping on board, and then you had the Mike fans who were feeling the brunt of it was kind of like the Drake Kendrick thing where like now like nobody likes Drake anymore. It was kind of like Mike was kind of going through that phase, um, and so it got heated. It definitely got heated. So there were some fisticuffs thrown quite a few times um, over that, and so but man, the Purple Kingdom was winning. Like he was coming out with the bangers. He had the banging movie. Like everybody, Mike didn't have that. And as I guess as much as people tried to argue, man, P was hot as fish grease then. It was like no denying that. And so like with the whole brick thing, that was probably out of frustration because it was clearly evident. It was clearly evident that, man, the Purple Yoda was, I mean, killing it on all fronts. And I mean, the Jackson camp couldn't keep up. It was just that's just how it was. You know, I laugh about that today because people were really very passionate about that. um, and people are still passionate about that today. I saw something. Akon was on Club Shay Shay, and he was talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, or the verses, or who was more talented, or say what have you. And some of the comments in there, like one of the comments was somebody was pro Michael Jackson, and they were saying all Prince fans mentioned is that he played a bunch of instruments. And I was like, well, the thing was and the question asked was who, I guess, the question asked was who was more talented. So, I mean, but that battle with Prince and Mike went on for a few years, probably till you graduated, right, D'Angela? Because it was kind of because Bad came out like I think right before your senior year.
Yep.
So it was still still some of that going on, just not as intense.
Yeah, not as intense.
Yeah, man, people had kind of won Prince over, but man, so you got to remember, like 83, like 84, Prince was still on the come up,
and
he just exploded, and it was like no denying it at that point.
Yeah. So I love this comment from Theo. Celie, do you mind muting yourself? Because for sometimes you know how I start hearing myself again. So Theo's saying, since I wasn't around when it was released, when I hear Erotic City, I don't think of Purple Rain, but rather the opening of the Love Sexy tour. That's my attachment to the song. And it makes perfect sense, Theo, because it is an amazing opener of, in my personal opinion, the most amazing, I don't even have my button ready. Love Sexy! Tour of all time. It's really an incredible opener of that tour. So I'm very happy to read that. And then,
hey, so I got a question. Said, did you? I know, because since we were all around for real time, like and experiencing, say, this song, did you guys ever try to imagine how these B-sides would fit like in the movie? Because I used to do that. Like, how would 17 Days fit in the movie, or like how would Erotic City have fit? Like, would they have performed it, or would it just have been, like When Doves Cry, just like a montage piece, or I just always wondered that, like, how would that have worked?
I think Erotic City would have been one of the club tracks, like Possess. In real time, I was like just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Possess is going to be a B-side. Possess is going to be a B-side. And never came out. And I thought that song was amazing. So I think that it would have probably been like one of the club tracks, like when they were in First Avenue, in terms of Erotic City. I don't know about 17 Days, but Erotic City in particular, yes.
Yeah, I could see Erotic City being performed in the club. It would have been like, I think the tone of the movie would have slightly been a little different in terms of the positioning, how I would have saw the kid versus the time or something if he'd have did that song. But yeah, I mean, he would have blew. I just had this thought last night. I'll deviate for a second, thinking of Purple Rain, the songs. I actually started thinking I could see, because the song is from this period, I could see Prince doing Pop Life in the movie And in the place of Darling Nikki, and my point is to say, I could literally see him doing that song when Morris and Apollonia come into the club, and he sees them and he's on stage, and he goes right into the "what's you putting up your nose" line. And if that would have been directed to Morris's character or something, and that would have been and Morris would have been the thing that either tried to walk out or wanted to fight. And Billy would have been like, "Why are you getting so personal?" That like it would have been that Prince, like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get in on him." The same way he did Darling Nikki or something. But I could kind of see that too. But.
Okay, I never thought about that one. All right.
Yeah. So the other thing, there's another comment that I wanted to point out, because this was actually very true, but this wasn't the original one. Where is the original one? I think it's Love Sexy. Yeah. It says, as much as I love Erotic City, I always had to keep my mouth shut when someone said he stole the groove from Laid Back and their track White Horse.
Oh, yeah.
So that came up a lot during high school, like this comparison, and I never heard it. That's just me. But
it's just the voice pitch change, because he had the voice pitch thing, and then Laid Back had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also, because DJs just would mix them. I mean, you just couldn't get away from. Like, there was a time in my life where every time I heard White Horse, in my mind, I would think Erotic City. Every time I heard Erotic City, I would hear White Horse. Because, again, from 84 to probably 89, 90, every DJ was mixing the two. So I think that's and as you guys, I know that Brother Wyatt and Brother Dean, y'all are actually musicians. Y'all have done production work and those kind of things. So you guys hear things, you hear grooves, you hear movements in ways that a lot of people don't. And I just think that, so I think that's why it really got that, was because DJs, they became synonymous with each other. And they also worked as people made the progression in the house music. And I wasn't a big house fan, but that was one of the staples that kind of existed before house music, that right in the house music, it stayed a staple from funk, R&B, right in the house music, which then gave it that even more mythical status. That's it.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I think it also, for me, I always think of people popping and locking during this time, because this song fit right into that aesthetic of that sound that was going on. Essentially early sort of hip hop type dance type stuff that was happening. I don't know how he tapped into that somehow, but it, to me, in my mind, I always associate it with cats pop, they would, because they would play some Prince songs, and that was one of them that I remember cats would play.
All right, so we're going to transition from Erotic City to Ice Cream Castle without the S. That's the album title, and the name of the song is Ice Cream Castles with an S. All right, Celie, get your magnifying glass out if you don't mind, so you could do the reading for the week. And this is page 356 in the expanded edition.
So we're Monday, July 9th, 1984?
You got it.
All right. The Times Ice Cream Castle album is released. For an album that was recorded during such turmoil, it has some surprisingly solid content. Songs like The Bird, Jungle Love, and My Draws fit well into their musical lexicon, and any future greatest hits comparison would likely feature half of this album. But at the same time, the other half of the album includes If the Kid Can't Make You Come, which is their obligatory, but weak. I don't think it's weak, but okay. Slower song. Ice Cream Castles, which sounds drastically out of place in their catalog, and Chili Sauce, which is good Lord, I don't agree with nothing. Okay, I'm sorry. Which is basically filler. And
that's why I wanted you to read it.
No shade, by the way. Thank you for the research, brother Tudahl. I just want to say. Thank you for the research. I'm trying to keep my.
I don't think he had any grits ever in his life when he wrote.
There you go. Let's see. Which is basically filler and might have been better served as a B-side. Multiple songs were left on the shelf, including My Summertime Thing and Chocolate, both of which would come out on their reunion album several years later. The reviews were generally positive. Rolling Stone gave it 3 out of 4 stars, and Ice Cream Castles rode the Purple Wave enough to expand the Times audience. It was their best-selling album to date, but it lacked the unified sound, oh my goodness, of their first 2 efforts. Prince seemed to have felt the album was good enough and overlooked several flaws, in part because he may have been emotionally disconnected from it. But also, it was likely that Prince just ran out of time because of his hectic schedule. Few realized that the time had broken up. Tensions were so bad that Prince didn't extend an invitation to Morris Day for the upcoming career of Purple Rain. Yeah.
Let's unwrap this. Let's unwrap this.
Yeah. Deconstruct. Do all that. Now, again, one of the things that's great about the Prince community, we're all coming to certain things. We're not all going to be moved by the same things. All right. So let's be clear on that. I will simply say that if the kid can't make you come is a banger.
Yeah, man.
Chili sauce in my drawers. Oh my goodness. I mean, my drawers. Okay. And so, and then I would say again, and and I don't want to get the shake button put on me here, but to me, you got to understand, to me, I think what gets missed by the time is that they are what Prince and the Time were always doing. Oh yeah, this leads right into something I want to read for y'all at the end if I'm still here. They were, I think, usurping, and this goes back to the discussion you guys were having last week. They were usurping black masculinity through what a black band could be. If you take Parliament Funkadelic's, who says a rock band can't play funk? Is that I always get that? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what the Time whole mission was. The Time that the mission statement for the Time was who says a rock band can't play funk, right? If you think about the roots of the Time, the type of music of the Time, so that you have to hear Ice Cream Castles in the same way that you would hear a Shake, in the same way that you would hear, like one of my favorite Time songs is I Don't Want to Leave You. Like that, you may not, a lot of people may not hear that as a funk groove, but it is certainly a classic R&B groove. And so I just think that a lot of times when we are, and again, I'm not saying you have to like every song by Prince of the Time. I want to be clear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that I think a lot of times people have very restricted listening ears and they limit what groups like the Time can be because they place them into a particular box and they've never seen, particularly in the South, a lot of the Southern R&B funk bands play live in bars. And I would say, because if you've seen R&B funk band play live, particularly in the South, in bars, you then understand that their repertoire is a lot wider than what you get on black stations. And I hold my other comments because I want to hear what everybody else said. But then there's something I want to say, if I have time, we're still on, about what Jerry Hubbard said in the Funkatopia interview, something that I never thought about until Jerry Hubbard said something. And I'm going to read just a snippet of it. But it comes to this: how do we see Prince in the line of not only black masculinity, but always fighting against what it is a black artist can record and play? I'll shut up.
Hold up. There's a Jerry Hubbard.
Yeah, it was just last week, right?
Yeah, it was just last week.
Oh, okay. I got to check that out. Okay.
Yeah, it's just last week. In fact, Funkatopia is on fire right now because not only did they interview Jerry Hubbard, they also interviewed St. Paul, and they also interviewed Mark Cardenas in a
What? Okay.
yeah.
Utopia, I think he had some surgery or something, but he getting back on his feet for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I know, like those two songs. I think a lot of people feel a certain way about those two songs, like those two songs being like Chili Sauce and If the Kid Can't Make You Come, because it's following the other ballads that the time had, which were much stronger, like Gigolos Get Lonely Too, Girl, and Oh Baby.
Mm.
And, those were, like when you listen to those in comparison to the If the Kid Can't Make You Come, and in Chili Sauce, you're kind of like, maybe some deflated moments. Like, you just may feel like, oh, wow, it's not this. But I will say that say the music for man, Chili Sauce and If the Kid Can't Make You Come
Fire.
is fire, yeah. And then to C. Lee's point about Prince doing the blues and all that, you really hear it in his guitar playing on those two songs. Because if you just take the vocals out and it's just the music, like you hear it, is very evident. Of course, the story about Jesse and them, kind of being tipsy, doing the drums and all of that type of stuff adds to it. But I I I see why some people don't kind of endear those songs as much as they do "Girl" or like "Gigolos Get Lonely Too."
Mm.
Um, I know because those songs had more of a song-like feel
Mhm.
or structure, things like that, and it was singing and it was all that. Whereas these two songs are kind of like just monologue, being kind of talking, and so it kind of makes you wonder if like they just ran out of ideas, they didn't want to do a ballad, they didn't have one in the can. Um, you know, I hate that, like my summertime thing and chocolate got left off.
Mm.
But maybe if it had been a different time period, they might have extended that album and had those songs on there. Um,
Mm.
just as I know, just for the playlist. But overall, I think the album's a banger. Like I was on board. I was on board. I was on board with
Yeah,
that.
man. I think like the time stuff, and salute to Dwayne, that's my guy. But when I read stuff like this and I hear comments about the time and the difference of the song, I always, my thing I always want to do is, okay, the person who's saying that, can I go see your record collection? Do you have Cameosis? Do you
Mm-hmm.
Right,
have any part
right.
in Funkadelic? Were you listening to Barcades? And because to me, the time is, it just sits. Or do you have any Zap? Were you listening? I'm like, well, were you listening to it? Like, was that your stuff? Because to me, this just sits right in and that's what was popping at the time. Like, you know, perfect. So I have no problem with none of the songs. Like, to me, I wasn't necessarily ready to understand If the Kid Can't Make You Come when it came out at the time, because I didn't know I know what they was talking about. I didn't have enough of an appreciation for like blues and things of that nature. But listening to it now, that's one of my favorite tracks off that album. To me, like musically, that might be one of the coldest, in my opinion, songs. If you really sit down and listen to it, uh, his guitar playing, if that's whoever's playing them solos and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous. Like,
Prince and Jesse, one of them is doing it.
yeah, it's like some of the deeper playing they've done on record at that time. After, stretching it out. If you're really paying attention to the bass and the syncopation, tightening in with the drums and stuff, it's dope. It's like, whoa, they doing that. But I just think that you don't associate that type of music with Prince. So it's just like, you know, it's not just the easy 779311. Not that it's easy, but it's just not as apparent like what's going on. I think they're stretching more on this record. And Ice Cream Castles is to show elevation of the time, the same way when you listen to Prince going from 1999 to Purple Rain, you put in one of his songs, it's an elevation, like, yo, they stepped it up. They doing something you didn't think, and it's still funky as hell. Like, they start jamming on Ice Cream Castle. Like, that's crazy. I just don't think that. I think too, we didn't get to see that live at that time. You know
Man,
what I'm saying? So it hit different. Like, and I think Prince on purposely, yeah, y'all not doing this in the movie. Like, you already got bangers in the movie, but I feel like they could have dominated. I mean, if they would have just came out Ice Cream Castles, because I always say this before, like my dad, he was super music dude at this time, like a music snob, and I'm just a young whippersnapper. I want him to acknowledge the music that I listen to. And I specifically remember him arguing with me that Ice Cream Castles, the song, that's better than this little Prince stuff you be talking about. that ain't no real. Them brothers be jamming, like, you know how the older cats would talk, and that's and I can see. I was like, wow, I made me really sit back and listen to it. I'm like, for him to say that it meant a big deal. Yep. And I didn't know at the time, and he certainly didn't know at the time that was Prince. But I know for him as an old school R&B dude, he identified with that more than he identified with Purple Rain and the songs that coming out of that. So
yeah, they you know, because this album, I do have to agree with Duane. I mean, it did, and I've said it before too. You know, like this is probably one of their, you know, albums. You know, like some people hold the second one as their favorite, and then maybe Pandemonium. I remember this one had the two biggest hits, and maybe because we had the visual, and say we had the visual of seeing Jungle Love and seeing the bird, and you know, for those who had never seen them live, they say were very appealing, because you got to remember, like, they weren't wearing, you know, the costume outfits on stage like most bands do. I mean, during that time, we're like Midnight Stars, the Atlantic Star, and all that. Like, they were in suits and stuff, and that's very relatable. Like, they look like some dudes that go to your church on Sunday, but they just in the young adult department. So, you know, and then they say we're playing this kick-ass music, and it was just like, you know, I mean, they, you know, man, just wouldn't be denied. Like, even because I'm like with you, Mike. You know, I often wondered again, like, man, how would my draws have fit like in the movie if they had done that live? You know what I'm saying? You know, and that's an underrated tune on that. That's probably the most I think underrated tune on this album, and maybe in their catalog is man, like My Draw. Like, that's a banger, banger.
Absolutely.
And I would also just add, again, I want to be clear. What I love about this space is we're not undercutting other people's positions or opinions. So I want to be clear. But I want to, like, something I think SMS 130 said, and I want you three and people in the chat to correct me, but the reason I don't think I Don't Want to Leave You couldn't have been a Prince and the Revolution song is because that song has something about which I don't think when I think about Prince and the Revolution, which is 2 or 3 or 4 part harmony. I think that what people forget about on the vocal, what I Don't Want to Leave You, is there's a harmony underneath Morris's vocal. And that harmony is, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, I hate to be cliche, but that is evoking back to, right, the Cooley High harmony, right? I don't want to say the doo-wop, right? That I Don't Want to Leave You has a kind of doo-wop-ish street corner. People don't, and I think people also don't understand that doo-wop was street corner music, right? We get it twisted because Motown is kind of presented as this clean and pristine thing, but people forget that doo-wop was hood music. The brothers were harmonizing on the corner. Yeah, you know, these were
early ciphers.
Exactly. Here's what they were doing. They would doo-wop, go rob the liquor store, and come back and doo-wop some more. I mean, you know, I'm not trying. You know, these weren't the dudes. You know, we think that doo-wop was these kind of, you know, choir boy kind of cats. No, the doo-wop cats were the hood cats, and that's when you're listening to I Don't Want to Leave You, the reason it's infectious is because of the harmony underneath Morris's voice. And maybe y'all can correct me. I can't think of a revolution song where harmony, particularly 2, 3, 4 part harmony, is what drives the song. Now, I'm welcome to be, you know, if someone can think about one, but so that's that. But again, that's that Prince thinking about, right, what all I want to do and what all I want to be, and understanding that, one, you just can't do it as a single artist. Most people will get tired of you if you oversaturate them with yourself. Like, let's be clear. Like, you know, I tell people that, look, most people are only going to take 1 or 2 things from you before they get tired of you. And so Prince understood I can't oversaturate myself, and I want to use The Time and Vanity Six and all these other groups, but also I understand that I'm pushing against what people think the community could be. And so that's why I think that makes that song so great. I'll shut up.
You touched on a lot of things. You know, I was watching this last night. I made a comment about do-rag Prince, but that what you just talked about, you know, the guys in the corner, and I was thinking, I was like, what is this? There's something visually that we associate when we see the do-rag, where it's, you know, kind of goes like this. And you know, Tupac plays on that too during that period of his imagery. And I was like, it must tie back to something, but I just don't remember. And it made me remember, like in Cooley High, it wasn't there
keeping the hair straight.
Brother D, as somebody who actually slept in a do-rag,
it's keeping that hair straight.
That's why my line is messed up now, because of all that processing and Jerry curling. Yeah, in fact, the do-rag would keep your hair straight. And I remember I would, like, the next day I would go, you know, even like when I first started teaching, I was still wearing the do-rag because I still had my perm. And so some of the older sisters, they would look at my forehead and go, oh, somebody had their do-rag on, because they could see the little lines, the knot in my forehead from the do-rag. But that's it. But remember, when it comes to your point, Brother D, remember in Under the Cherry Moon, remember when Mary first sees Prince or sees Christopher, and she says, "What's that?" Who remember what his answer was?
Soul.
So what you're saying, Brother Dean, is that the do-rag calls back to the history of soul. It calls back to the history of the corner. It calls back to the history of we always been flat. We always been like this. Yeah. This is just part of who we are. And I think that what happens is that because people come in and cherry pick parts of our culture, and then once they cherry pick parts of our culture, they want to identify that as, well, this is the black thing, but this is not the black thing, without understanding. Look, the first time I saw Wally and Brooks, I knew them dudes. They weren't new, and I wasn't surprised that Prince was hanging out with Wally and Brooks the same way. He was just re-echoing that soul through the time and everything else. I'll shut up. I like that. Kim put soul signifier. I like that. Soul signifier.
See, Lee, you know, like when we first see Morris in Purple Rain,
he got that on.
Got the do-rag on.
And vacuuming. So yeah. So
it was almost like it was. I'm not saying it was a thug thing, but it just let you know that person was connected to the streets. Whoever, you know what I mean? It was a signifier, because I remember on the West Coast there'd be certain, like, that wasn't, you might have been one of the cats that might be feared on the street because you was bold enough to put your head like that and have all this stuff going on, and no one couldn't say you were soft, because that was like, yo, that was the hardest dude, because he can walk in the street with dripping juice and all that, and ain't nobody gonna check him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, like, when I think of the time and Prince doing that, that's what it reminds me, like, yo, I'm connected to this. I know exactly what, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, I think with Prince too, and I'm going to stop, I think that he understood too, I want to be a crossover superstar. And ain't no way, there's only so much I can be connected to that and then try to be the crossover. So but it's in me. So I'm going to have the time be that they'll be black as hell. I can be seen as something else, and I can dabble in that, but there's not going to be anything that's going to get in my way of being a superstar crossover act. You know, I can't, not to say he didn't want to be black, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's only so much I'm going to let my thing be involved with, but they can be it all the way. Like, it's in me, but I'll push it over here. I'm going to have a different image. And I think that's where he sort of butts heads against when that starts to become maybe a little bigger than him. Like, wow, I didn't think that was going to be this big, because I'm on the track to be the crossover dude, but God damn it, they want to see that too. Like, you know, so
I mean, keep in mind, they had the Cadillac on front of the album cover.
Yeah,
absolutely.
With white walls.
they had the big Cadillac with white walls on front of the album cover, chilling.
And then he later sort of adopts that, like,
under
the Cherry Moon. Essentially, he's like, well, I'm gonna be the cat. I'll be the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So are we finished with our ice cream castle conversation for this week?
I wanted to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
And to everybody in the chat, unfortunately, Prof. Duff, Brother Dean, and Brother Ricky, and about 5, 6 more folks, they get these ancillary emails from C. Lee. And I know they're like, oh, what the hell is C. Lee? What is going on with the email from C. Lee today? So this is the email that y'all would have gotten, but I'm going to read it so y'all, but it's about 5 or 6 lines. And I want everybody to know it comes from something that Jerry Hubbard said during the Funkatopia. And the title of the email would have been, let me get it straight, would have been The Black Male Confidant. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what Jerry Hubbard made me realize was I never thought about it, is that except for a brief period from 83 to 85, Prince's life is punctuated with a black male confidant. I'm just going to run through it right quick. Right? And because I was going to send y'all the email and tell me what y'all thought about that thought. And then you have to go back and listen to something that Jerry Hubbard says. All right, so, hey, y'all, listening to Jerry Hubbard's interview on Funkatopia, I realized that Prince had a history of making sure to maintain a black male confidant throughout the entirety of his life and career. Of course, he begins with Andre, and that segues into Dez briefly, who is replaced by Morris, who returns to Prince's life after Prince had resigned his recording contract to serve first as Prince's videographer for his live shows, that segues into becoming his studio confidant drummer, and then the leader of the time after Morris wrote the skeleton of what became Party Up. By the way, the only song I've ever listed as my favorite Prince song. After Morris departs, Jesse becomes the next confidant, having earned that role by his songwriting and holding the time together as Morris transitioned out of the camp. Once Jesse leaves, according to Hubbard, he assumes the role. When Hubbard chooses to go with Jesse, Jerome becomes the next confidant, with Wally and Brooks alternating the role in various ways. Next, Levi assumes the role as the de facto music director, followed by Sonny T, Michael B, and Morris Hayes, alternating the role, with Morris Hayes becoming Prince's longest tenured band member, with whom Prince continued to communicate and confide even after he was no longer in the band. The last two are Kirky J and Joshua Welton, although Welton was more of a mentee than a confidant, as Prince seemed to be paying it forward with Welton, which is cool, but I will never forgive Welton for that hit and run Phase 1 album. Thank God Phase 2 wasn't too long released after Phase 1.
Wow.
I think I may have more to write or say on this topic later, but it was interesting how hearing this one little tidbit can open a floodgate that one didn't realize was there. And hearing how Jesse Hubbard, so what Jesse Hubbard says is, after Jesse leaves, he's actually doing a lot of jamming with Prince, and Prince is actually playing songs and talking about the family project. And he's going and picking up Jesse Hubbard in the same way that he would have picked up Jesse, in the same way that he would have picked up Morris. So the fact that Prince gravitates towards Jesse Hubbard as a person with which he's jamming and sharing his thoughts about the family connects it and shows that from, the basement with Andre to Joshua Welton, Prince had a black male confidant that I had never thought about until that moment. And so I'll open the floor to see if anybody thinks I'm way off. I don't know if I'm going to write more about that. I don't know if more can be written about that. I just think that needed to be put out there because I think we forget about that relationship that Prince always had. I'll shut up.
Wow. Can I ask this question? So
that's the offering, right?
Is that the church, the organ? yes, Lord. Is it the one time where it seems like he doesn't have that black counterpart, the ascension of Purple Rain, and sort of the subbing of Wendy and Lisa in these positions? So does that say something where there's some not pushback, but the sort of romanticized thoughts of, Prince needing the Wendy and Lisa sort of vibe, where that's the best kind of thing. There's sort of there was like a segment of the fan base was like, for a while, like the Wendy and Lisa Prince thing is what brew him. That was the one I want to hear versus, okay, blew up, but now I got to bring my boys back in. The parade tour, and then he's kind of like he brings the black counterpart back, and maybe even people in the band is kind of like, well, why we got to do that? Like I thought we was. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
No. I think you're perfect. I'm glad you said that, because one of the things in my book that I do address is that there was a quote that was always interesting to me, and I can't remember if it was in either the 85 or the later interview. And it may be in the interview where Prince is on the Rolling Stone cover with Lisa and Whitney. He's got on the paisley suit. Mm-hmm. And Prince says that, and I wish I had the quote right in front of me, so forgive me if I butcher the quote, but Prince says, Wendy makes me all right with other people. When I snarl, she smiles. And in my book, I ask, who are the other people? And what I then began to discuss is Andre, Prince, Dez. That's a black front line. Mm-hmm. Prince's original band was a black rock front line. Dez, of course, and let's be clear, neither Dez nor Andre was supposed to be there forever. They were both solo acts who were coming in, kind of doing this thing. So it's going to be temporary. We need to understand it was temporary. When Dez leaves, Wendy gets the job, one, because she's talented. I think everybody needs to understand that, because people are going to hear the other part and forget what. So Wendy is talented. Wendy gets the job because she's talented. She can play. Mm-hmm. But she also gets the job because Prince always wanted that Sly and the Family Stone, multiracial, multi-gender, because he understood that the multiracial, multi-gender. So when he says that Wendy makes me all right in the eyes of others, my question, he says, when I smile, she snarls. Oh, now when I snarl, she smiles. The question that I think reporters always fail to do their work, except for Miles Morales. Not Miles. I keep Miles Morales. I want to make Spider-Man so damn bad. I want to make Miles Spider-Man so damn bad. But except, I think Brother Miles is one of the few journalists that did a good enough job that it scared even Prince, is why Prince had them take that article down. That the question that the journalist should have asked of Prince, who are the people that Wendy makes you comfortable, that Wendy makes comfortable? And I wonder why the journalist never followed up and asked that question about with whom does Wendy make you comfortable? Now, none of that, I want to be clear. Two things can always be true, right? We all know, you got four people on this screen right now. I think each of us understand that we're each talented, but we also understand that each of us bring other things to the table. And if Wendy brings certain things to the table, that doesn't discount that she was a talented guitarist. It just means that Wendy and Lisa, along with being brilliant musicians, I want to say this, and we know they're brilliant musicians. Why? Because they had a brilliant musical career after Prince. So we understand that Wendy and Lisa are brilliant musicians because they had a brilliant, they owned the soundtrack game. They owned the writing for TV and movie game once they left Prince. And Fruit at the Bottom is my favorite Wendy and Lisa album. Let's move on. So, but what Wendy and Lisa also brought was a window into a pop crossover crowd. Mm-hmm. Because remember, and I can't remember whether it was Rock and Soul or Black Beat Magazine, I got to go back up in the closet and find out. But there was a review in either Rock and Soul or Black View magazine where the reporter wrote, he said, all Purple Rain is Prince trying to clean up his overly sexual gutter past. So there were a lot of people who, before Purple Rain, to Prof. Dustin's point, saw Prince as nothing more than a hood, oversexed artist. Right? Prince was almost considered too black and too sexual for mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And that for a lot of people, Wendy and Lisa allowed him to kind of bridge that gap. That is not to say that Wendy is not a brilliant musician. And so, yes, so to come on back to Brother Dean's original question, is yes, that the absence of the black male counterpart may also be because it allowed him to access some things that he couldn't with a front line of 3 black males that, regardless of how perm their hair was, regardless of how they looked, there were very few people who saw them as anything other than masculine dudes. I'll shut up.
And I'll ask you this. The imagery of the movie and what the movie sort of seems to sort of convey, would it have been the same effect if, let's say, Andre was in the movie and he was the Wendy character? He wouldn't have had the same effect with a young white girl.
Exactly.
Sort of opening the door to say that they wrote the song.
Right.
He sort of is giving into that, as opposed to if it would have been his brother and they came together as, you know what, my man, I got you. I got the joint for you. I think that speaks a lot to his success of this period, too. How it's, in terms of the mainstream, how they saw it. Like you said, it was a window. It's a little easier to buy it with Wendy and Lisa sort of being that type of thing for him to come into, versus if it was Morris's character hadn't been the rival. You know what I'm saying? So he's a rival to the counterpart in that particular movie. But then moving forward, I don't think he really does that again.
And to your point, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you want to talk about like, so let's say it's Dez or Andre.
Okay.
To your point, there are not that many. There are so few Hollywood films that celebrated and promoted black male bonding that The 5 Heartbeats was one of the few movies. In fact, I tell people that black male bonding in Hollywood cinema is so rare that I rack my brain sometimes to find other Hollywood cinema before The 5 Heartbeats where there's a deliberate plot line to show you the importance of black male bonding. And so the question is, to your point, Brother Dean, could they have even sold
right
a bonding movie between either Andre or Dez, right? With them being the ones trying to get their songs played and them trying to, create a relationship. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And
it would have been just considered a hood movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Mo Better Blues is one probably showed some bonding, maybe.
Oh, for sure. On a bigger level, Boys in the Hood shows bonding. It just through tragedy.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, Purple Rain, and then what other black movie came? It was a long gap.
Yeah, yeah. I know. C-Lead. I know you brought up an interesting thing.
I guess.
And I think the confident thing. I think that that's interesting. I mean, you brought that up. I never thought about that one, and I'm glad you shared that. But I think it was just like a comfort level for Prince, just being just a regular brother. Kind of navigating these waters, because he is like he's got a lot of people depending on him to eat, and he's like 26, 27-year-old cat, all this responsibility, kind of dealing with this. And he probably had to deal with a whole lot that we don't really look at or see or like acknowledge all the time because he had so much kind of depending on him, and it's just a relatable thing, like who could he relate to, and so you had to go from Andre to Dez to Morris to Jesse to Jerry Hubbard to all these other people, just because, if nothing else, they were brothers in, say, America too. Like people forget. I mean, Prince was a star, and he was big, but he probably, a lot of times was the only person of color like walking into the room or sitting in those rooms. And so, when he had to kind of vent or let that stuff out or talk to somebody or just kind of relate to somebody, who he can't do that with, Bobby, Matt, I'm saying Bobby, Matt, and say the girls. I mean, maybe to a certain extent he could with some stuff, but there's that other part too that he couldn't. And so like you had these brothers around to kind of, I hate to use the term like keep him grounded, but it kind of kept him like, okay, I got somebody to talk to that can at least relate to this piece about this or about that. And so
and to that point, last 2 points, to that point, was it Gail Chapman who said that she would always be bothered because Andre and Prince would always like use the N-word, and she didn't like the fact that they used, I think it was Gail that talked about that made them uncomfortable with them using the N-word. And I'm actually one of those proponents that I don't like people who use the N-word in that way. But for me, it also speaks to a type of communication that Prince knew he could have with Andre that he couldn't have with Gail. That's the only reason I'm bringing that up. And I always hate, I hope I'm not mispronouncing the name, but I think, is it Bangladesh? The only thing I'll say Bangladesh is that go look at the 1999 album closely. That's all I'll say, because the revolution did not just show up with the Purple Rain album, right? If you look at the 1999 album very closely, Prince had already started playing with the name The Revolution. And so this is not a question of did he not love Wendy and Lisa. That's not the question I'm raising. I'm not saying he didn't love them. But if you're just talking about a band concept, well, the concept of the revolution started. We have tangible documented evidence that it at least existed by 82 on 1999. And so again, I don't think people thinking that my discussion about this is to say that Wendy and Lisa, these people are not talented, that he didn't have wonderful relationships. This is just something that, in looking at Prince's progression and looking at his relationships, something that doesn't get mentioned enough. And I only mention it because, and I'm glad that Sister Swenson did her great book, Must Be Something in the Water, because the big problem after Prince died is that mostly white journalists worked to separate Prince from the black community. And the great thing that Sister Swenson's book does, Something in the Water, is it repositions Prince firmly back in the black community. And I think that we're still fighting against lazy journalism and people not wanting to make that connection and wanting Prince to be from Mars, wanting Prince to be the figment of somebody else's imagination, and not wanting Prince to be a product of the black community. I'll shut up. That's it.
That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so Celie, it's got to be something. Got to be, and we want to show Andrew's book because it's really important. So that's the book. And I know you got to go because it's 1:23, but there's a question from Chris Bournet that I want you to answer, actually. It's way before. So this is going back to either that Rock and Soul or Black People. And Chris is asking, he cleaned up his overly sex image with Darling Nikki and Erotic City.
Well, what I'm saying, again, Brother Bournet, that's not me saying it. I'm saying that if you go back and you read old articles from Rock and Soul and Black Beat magazine, if you go back and read those old articles, and this actually gets back to the conversation we were having earlier. One of the issues with the Prince and Michael Jackson division is that Michael Jackson was considered the squeaky clean, middle class, respectable artist, and Prince was considered the hood, cafe, jug joint, nasty artist. Like that's what Prince is. That's what Prince is. If you were a Prince fan before Purple Rain, people looked at you like you was crazy. If you were a Prince, I've told the story. I tell the story quickly, and this was as late as 1988. I had an old black woman in the grocery store parking lot, Brother Dean. I was carrying out her groceries, and she asked me. She said, "What music do you like?" I was going to say Prince, but all I got was the print out. And this old black woman put her hands on Miss Jesus right now, Lord, in the name. Take that demon out of him, Lord. Lord, get that demon. So I had an old black woman pray over me in a parking lot. So, yes, Brother Brene, that Purple Rain, believe it or not, was seen as Prince light. In fact, nobody was tripping over Darling Nikki until Tipper Gore. That's the other thing we need to forget. That Tipper Gore, nobody, Purple Rain, I need to say it again. I know that Purple Rain for a lot of black people, for people who are Prince fans. See, that's what Prop does. She's trying to be nice to y'all. There were a lot of folk in the hood who saw Purple Rain as Prince light.
Yeah.
They didn't see it. It wasn't banging. It wasn't. It paled in comparison to Dirty Mind. Prince had songs jack you off, and it wasn't about his friend Jack who was getting off at 5 o'clock. It was not about that.
Lord.
So you had to understand. So that was in the community. People didn't even believe Prince was going to be able to cross over. I think that a lot of people forget that before the movie came out, people were rolling their eyes. This dude got a movie?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
An X-rated movie. That's what.
Yeah. And remember, that was the thing about it. It must gonna be X-rated. Everybody assumed that Prince couldn't make a movie that wasn't X-rated.
Mm-hmm.
Or have you seen the X-rated version?
Yeah. So, and I still mad we didn't get that barn scene. I'm still mad we didn't get the barn scene. That's just me. You know, my 14-year-old stuff went there. And look, and my wife gonna kill me. My mother's gonna kill me. But this is whenever we talk about Purple Rain, she said we were sitting in that theater. And I didn't know her at the time. She said we were sitting in that theater. And there was a certain scene in the movie that happened. And some sister said, he can't be gay because he know exactly where to put his hand. And that's all I'm saying. I'm gonna let you imagine what scene it was. I'm glad Brother Brene brought up that question. But yeah, and I think that's also how seminal Purple Rain is to Prince's legacy. A lot of things shifted with that movie. We don't want to reiterate. You go back to the whole James Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince being on stage. And Prince was not necessarily welcomed at that party. That was a James Brown party of older black people. Mm-hmm. Michael Jackson had a card because he was little Mikey Jackson. Let's be clear. The old black people at that concert, they were clapping for little Mikey Jackson. Who little Mikey Jackson was going to go up and continue to clean, first class, first rate, Motownification of black music into the window of crossover. And here come this weird dude who riding on the back of his white security guard for one. Right, let's be clear. Like that. Don't act like that didn't push a couple of old black people a certain way. Who you think you is, boy? Riding on the back of this white bodyguard. Then you come up here and you ain't giving and you ain't giving what they feel is proper deferment to James Brown and Prince. And I think people really don't understand how underground Prince was how hood Prince was, how feared he was. And Prince scared black and white people. And I think people need to understand. And maybe if we discuss Purple Rain from that avenue, people would truly understand why it's a success, because it's an album and a movie and a phenomenon that should have never happened, given Prince's starting point and where he ended. I'll shut up.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what you just said, that image of Prince, he's been around so long, either people don't know it or they have forgotten that he would have been considered the ratchet rap artist of today, who becomes a superstar and changes his image to the point that you forget that he was the original Eazy-E and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how his records were seen. But now we think of him as this almost godly character. But he originally was, like you said, he was that hardcore. He would have been the hardcore rapper who was too much for TV. You know, they would have to censor it down.
Yeah,
and
like
he was able to change that perception of himself. Very, very, very smart. And he, like, going back to the positioning of Wendy and Lisa, he understood, like, yeah, this is what's going to get me over there.
Yeah,
is to put these people on, next to me or front. Michael Jackson did the same. I have to change my skin color or my look and tone it to a more certain type of look, because this is what's going to get me in the door. And I think it's interesting that they both do this. And then right after they both ascend to this, and we mentioned, I think last week, the people that where they come from say, we don't really identify with that anymore. We want the black masculine look. And they both change to try to assess that. Mike immediately goes to bad, right? Because I went toughen myself up because I see the change is coming. Prince changes his stuff up too. Like, I'll be Morris, and then later on Gangsta Glam and stuff. So, but it's a fascinating thing. I think if you look at Prince over time, you see the career, you'll see an artist that went from this to this, and it's just a fascinating thing. I'm done.
And I want to just say one thing to realign the DJ. To realign the DJ, yes, not only was BB King at that James Brown show, in my newsletter probably several months ago, I actually wrote about being a child, because I had that VHS. I had that VHS of the BB King James Brown show. It came out as a VHS. And what happened was the Prince part got edited out.
Right.
So if you go online, if you go to YouTube, you will notice that there are actually two different videos. There's a video from the actual DVD where the Michael Jackson part is really pristine. If you look at the Prince part, it's grainy because it was never saved, because it was never. So it was years later that I'd had grown up listening to that, watching that VHS with BB King and James Brown. And then it took me years to go, wait, is that the same show? And I had to kind of like go frame, go like, oh my God, I've had this VHS all these years and did not know that that's the show where Prince, right, had the quote, the debacle thing, because it was taken out. And so I talk about that now. The article is actually more about James Brown, and the article is about people don't know what a big star BB King was. And we're not gonna waste time there, but people really don't understand. BB King was on Sanford and Son. They let you know how big a guy in the hood BB King. And James Brown loved and adored BB King. And that's that whole what black music is. That people wouldn't think that somebody like James Brown is acting like the junior high kid, that the cool high school kids, BB King and Bobby Blue Bland, is letting him hang out with them on the stage. And to see James Brown, what we know as one of the greatest people of all time, basically fanboy, Brother Dean and Brother White. Like, James Brown is fanboying to BB King. So that's really what the article is about that whole wideness of what blackness is. But to say it, so yeah, that actual show is from that VHS that I had that I gotta go find. All right, that's it.
Yeah. All right, you need to go, C-Lee, because I don't want you to get in trouble.
I got about 10 more minutes. I'm gonna shut up. Wait, let's go. I got about 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want Monica to get mad at me for
Look
holding.
here, look here. Because you know Monica will kick that door open. So if y'all see the door kick open and the screen open, y'all know I'm in trouble.
I want to see the frying pan.
There you go.
Oh man, to you all's point, Mike and Celia, I was gonna say, man, people forget like during this time, people were still protesting Prince.
Mm.
Even as he was cleaning up the image. I mean, like Purple Rain was still, as like big as a movie as say it was. I think I might have been in like a rare number of my friends at my age who saw it at that time because their parents, were just like, nah, so we're not gonna do that, and even the movie was still being kind of, I don't want to say protested. It was kind of being talked about as if, like, don't let your kids go see this,
Right.
Type of thing. So yeah, so like he was kind of coming out of that or changing his image. It was almost a big push. I mean, so to say, because like we'll find out. I'm sure we'll discuss it later in future shows. About the Purple Rain tour and how in southern states you had certain religious factions protesting the shows coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, right outside the stadium.
Yeah, and even in his hometown, like people were still protesting. I think in St. Paul's, people were protesting him doing, like his concerts and things of that nature. So, yeah, like he had that image. I mean, he certainly had that bad boy. He is filth. He is this image. But so those of us who knew and who were on the purple train knew that it was like nah. And man, to C. Lee's point, you are absolutely man correct. And nobody was really tripping on Darla Nikki. I mean, the only thing people were tripping on was I know was that part at the end, playing it backwards.
Yep.
That's
what
like,
bothered black people.
That was some bullshit.
Yeah, like that was the only thing people talked about that song. Like, like nobody was really, hung up on the thing until Tipper Gore, brought that up. But yeah, you're absolutely correct about that.
Yeah, I almost sometimes refrain from playing that part out loud at home just because I knew I didn't want my mom. I know she would, like, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So I just wouldn't, I'd turn that down. I just knew that I better turn that down because I already
yeah.
It ain't no playing around with that kind of stuff.
All right, so we're going to get to our third and final reading. Michael Dean, if you don't mind doing that. And Celie, you really should go because I don't want you to get in trouble. I really don't. I'm serious. This is serious business. So I'm going to remove you if that's okay. Because I don't want Monica to be upset with us. Bye. All right, Michael Dean. So page 357, Saturday, July 14th.
Okay. All right. Prince attended the Jackson's Victory Tour show at Cowboy Stadium in Dallas, Texas. A private plane was chartered for Prince, Alan Leeds, Jerome Benton, Roy Bennett, and several members of Prince's security team. They watched the show from the center of the field at the Soundboard Tower. Keep going, or
no? That's it. That's all.
I just watched the.
Can I say something about this show?
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
I just watched that Thriller 40 documentary again last night, and they show clips from the concert. Dope, man! I actually saw that concert in real life, but I don't remember nothing of it. But fantastic. They just look like superheroes, man. That's all I want.
I watched it on YouTube because I didn't go see it back in the day. I know it's stuff on YouTube, and maybe because I'm spoiled, I'm sure I am because when you go, like when you go to Prince shows, your standard is kind of high. Once you see a Prince show, I was kind of underwhelmed by the Victory show, man. Like I saw it, and I tried to approach it from different angles, like
Mm.
like the musician angle is always first, kind of checking out, the band and how they're doing and things of that nature, and the transitions and things of that. And I was like, okay. And I remember the hype around it, and yeah, you're right, man. They did kind of come out like looking like superheroes because they had the pyrotechnics. I know
Oh
they
yeah.
had the costumes, but just in terms of how the show flowed and how it kind of went and people's movement on stage, I was just like, oh man,
Mm.
maybe I'm just 40 years too late. Maybe had I seen it back in '84 or like '85, I probably would have felt differently about it. But in 2024, watching it, I was just underwhelmed. I was just like, wow, like okay,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
trying
I
to get
think
hyped, but I just couldn't. I just
all I could tell you is in the moment of it, the musicians, all the things that I deem important and are musts when I watch Prince
hmm
did not matter at that time, only because the spectacle of Michael Jackson and the excitement and electricity overshadowed all of that. Like it
yeah,
didn't even. I that's why I don't remember the music. I don't
okay,
remember. It was such a. It was like when somebody just opens and goes, oh, and I couldn't process. Only thing I could process was it was like I was among so many people. I could barely see Michael Jackson, but it was such a uh, the vibe and the excitement was just overpowering
yeah,
that dominated the presentation of what they were doing. Because I agree
mm,
with you, if you're just watching it, Prince and them blow that out the water.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Musically and the way they're performing, but there's no way to really capture what it felt like at the height of Michael
his power,
mania
yeah.
to
I kind
see
of
that.
figured that.
Yeah, it's just other world. And I said, I think, and plus, I was a fan of the Jacksons, like heavy,
hmm
Destiny and all that. So to me, it's just like seeing them. That's why I said when they presented them like they were heroes, victory. It was like they were on a whole other level. And of course, Mike, you had knew him since being a kid, and what he represented is that little black boy who was so phenomenal.
hmm
And now he was kind of like a man. It's just like there's nothing to compare to that. I think it's hard to replicate the feel of that.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I mean, it was the hottest ticket.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
know, man. In '84,
Controversial.
I mean, that summer starting out, it was the hottest ticket. So it doesn't surprise me that Prince and them went to go check it out
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of see, like what the competition was doing or what the hype was about.
Mm, yeah.
So
Wasn't there a story about them at the concert and Prince was trying
yeah,
to get he was kind of making a spectacle a little bit.
yeah. It is something like he went somewhere where people could recognize him. Try to take attention away from, I think, the stage or something like that or whatever. I don't know like
I
like
vaguely
the
remember.
specifics of it. Yeah, but yeah, like that's interesting. Because he caught that show and then he caught like Bruce Springsteen show, and
Mm.
it's almost like he went. He was like, all right, I'm gonna see what the competition is doing before we hit the road, and I'm gonna fine tune my thing and
Oh
go
yeah.
out and then bang him in the head.
I'm reading this. I think that was the interview that I did where he mentions that. I'm getting old, but yeah, shout out to Hucky.
All right, so we have to stop at 2, unfortunately. So I'm gonna skip and get to the music break. I'm gonna skip through all the usual ending things because that was the last thing that we had to read about this week and that was for Saturday. And let's get into the music break really quick. And I said this last week, but for anybody who's local in the tri state area, Liv Warfield is going to be at the Blue Note on Monday. So if you want to come out and see Liv Warfield, she's going to be here on Monday. She usually comes this way every summer. So that's where she'll be. And
Okay.
then obviously Corey Henry is still on his world tour. He's going to be in Rotterdam on the 14th, and then Arthur is actually going to the Paris, France show So we definitely got to shout out that, which is happening on the 15th. So hopefully, if everyone will continue to support Corey Henry, because he needs to be supported. And I mentioned this last week, but I just wanted to just put this up again. This is this reaction video that I was really moved by, and the guy, and I couldn't remember what his handle was, and it's room 2703, where he goes through the entire For You, listening to it for the first time. For You is one of my favorite albums of all time, not just Prince's. I love that album dearly, so definitely check it out. And really,
Oh wait,
go ahead.
I have something to add, like to the music break, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, Roy Hargrove, jazz trumpet player that passed away back in
Yeah.
2018, has a wonderful documentary. It's on PBS. It's about his last tour. Very, very, very heart wrenching.
Yeah.
Because you see him like in his last days, but it's a wonderful documentary. It's called Hargrove. It's on PBS. It's streaming on PBS. If you just go to the PBS site, type it in, you'll see it. But it's got a few. It's got some nice recognition. He's one of my favorite jazz trumpet players, right behind Miles Davis. Top tier. He was a Madhouse fan, Prince fan and all that. Wonderful man, say musician, talented brother. But if you're interested, I highly recommend that man, you check it out. As far as jazz documentaries go, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Ricky. I definitely want to watch that, and I haven't heard one thing about that. So you're telling us that is the first time that I'm actually hearing that there
Okay.
is a Roy Hargrove documentary out there. So
Yeah.
that's really great. And I think it's interesting that we started off the day with Atlanta Bliss, another amazing trumpet player.
Mm-hmm.
So, the universe responds sometimes. All right, so let's go to our purple world with the quickness. We got some time. I'm going a little faster. This morning, St. Paul actually premiered this video where he interviews Jimmy Jam at NAMM, which is a national, the music conference. I can never remember what NAMM stands for, NAMM. And what's interesting is he asked Jimmy Jam about what did it feel like knowing that, his position, that St. Paul basically took his position in the time. So it's a really great conversation. And literally, he just premiered it this morning. So check it out. I will add it to the accompanying playlist that's at the bottom of my YouTube page. But he hasn't made it so that you can put it in a playlist yet. But if you click on the slideshow at our website, which is bookclub.polished.com, the slide deck is at the bottom of the homepage. You can get to it that way, or you can just do your Googles, as Michael Dean would say. And then we've been talking about, or rather, a lot of you actually in the comments have been talking a lot about Funkatopia, because they've done a lot of programming this past week in regards to Ice Cream Castle, which has been really amazing. I haven't had the opportunity to listen to it because they have really in-depth conversations, like 3 hours and so on and so forth. So I'm really looking forward to listening to this one in particular with St. Paul and Jerry Hubbard.
Yeah, me
both
too.
in the second incarnation of the time, and that's in the accompanying playlist. And then the other one that Funkatopia did was with Mark Cardenas, and that's a separate one. So you should definitely check out those two. And I want to remind everyone, we did something earlier this year called the Erotic City Symposium, Erotic City 40 Symposium in particular, where we celebrated all 4 albums, and one of those albums was Ice Cream Castle. So we had our one and only Michael Dean moderating our roundtable, where we had Randy Ferguson, who we call part of the next Power Generation, Shelly Wade, a local DJ, and Law, who is an amazing musician. Thank you so much, Nick, for NAMM. NAMM stands for National Association of Music Merchants. I really appreciate that. And then in addition to that, we had 2 presentations about Ice Cream Castles. We were going to have a third one, but unfortunately, Christopher Daniel got really ill right before, and he wasn't able to come. So we only had the two with Chris Robb. He did an amazing presentation. So that you should definitely watch if you haven't watched it, where he just goes through all of the Ice Cream Castle tracks, track by track, and talking about them musically, which was just such a treat. And there were a couple moments where like the audience just jaw dropped in terms of making musical connections. And then the other presentation was about Joni Mitchell, because as we talked about in the chat earlier today, the words Ice Cream Castles comes from a Joni Mitchell tune. So he goes into a lot of detail about Joni Mitchell's connection to Prince and Ice Cream Castle. And then what you're seeing here is the Q&A after both of those presentations, and C. Lee actually moderated the conversation. And what I really love, going back to the roundtable, my favorite part, Michael Dean, was when you talked about the shoe cam. And I don't know if you remember, you made C. Lee come up and like show his shoes and stuff like that. Was one of my favorite parts. It was so funny. And so Robert Loss's presentation was Ice Cream Castles in the Air, Prince plus Joni Mitchell equaled the time. And then, I forgot to change this one. I have to change it, but and Chris's Rob's musical presentation. And then I'm getting really excited about the upcoming Com 30 virtual symposium, which we're actually less than a month out. And so that's coming up on August 10th and 11th. I hope that you'll join us. If you type in the bit.ly link, bit.ly/PrinceCom30, it will take you to the registration. And again, will be virtual. So I'm excited that Theo is excited. And I'm also excited about this. So we celebrated 1984 with Erotic City 40. Now we're going to celebrate 10 years later with 1994. So yeah, Blake Brown, it's coming up really fast. I'm so happy to hear that you blocked it off, Kim.
Hey, so I tagged you in my Twitter X post because I had a flashback. It was 30 years ago. I got that Vibe magazine. Prince did an interview. One of his only interviews. I know with Vibe came and he talks about Come in that article. I had to reread it, and he was talking about pitting Come against the Gold Experience, because he was because he was going with his battle against Warner's, and I thought that was interesting that he wanted to pit both of those against each other.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Yeah. And that's another one I know a lot of people we are going to do a virtual Gold Experience symposium next year. So I know a lot of people are really waiting for that one. And Man Ray, thank you so much for saying that. So Law was on stage with the Time at a Taste of Minneapolis concert. That's very, very cool. Yep.
Hey, so we're not doing nothing for 1-800-NEW-FUNK?
Oh, yeah. not an entire symposium.
We're not gonna do nothing for 1-800-NEW-FUNK.
No, Ricky, we are not. At least I'm not.
Okay.
Maybe somebody else will do that. Oh, I got to do that. And so next week we are reading pages 357 to 365. For week 29 of What Did Prince Do This Week, and what next week we're going to be talking about Nothing Compares to You, the basic tracking feed line, basic tracking, Nothing Compares to You, sax overdubs, and a rehearsal. So that's what's going on for next week. And yes, we got a Now Ricky about 1-800-NEW-FUNK. Yeah.
Come on now. There's some gems on there, like the Madhouse gem, Love Sign is on there.
Love Sign, yeah.
Love Sign is on there. Nona's song, Woman's Gotta Have It.
Together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Together is on there.
Yeah, so Chris Barnett is saying, looking forward to the symposium. I listened to 1-800-NEW-FUNK walking around Paisley Park at Celebration this year. All right.
Nice.
Okay. So, all right.
Child of the Sun. I forgot about that.
Child of the Sun. Whoo.
You should do a Child of the Sun. Carmen Electra, what was hers?
Yeah.
T.C. Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question.
Good question. We didn't have nothing to do with that one, did you?
Yeah, we have to curate. Like,
Hilarious.
Yes, exactly what Theo is saying. So thank you so much, Ricky, for joining us. It's always a
Oh,
blast having you here. I
you know
know
I got
that,
you.
yes, you do. And I really appreciate you for that. And thank you so much, Michael Dean, for holding it down with me every week. I really appreciate you so much. And then we had the Reverend C. Lee with us, which was
Yes.
always amazing. So I hope that all of you have an amazing weekend and that you'll be back with us next week when we start doing a deeper dive into the family.
All right.
Helps, Michael Dean.
Rick, funk us out as Mark.
Oh man, I don't know if y'all can hear me. Can y'all
Okay.
hear that?
Yeah, I heard it.
You got to get the face now.
On case.
Funk face.
There we go. We
But
funked
with
it out.
that, there you go. With that said, as we watch my man jam out, we're gonna get up out of here this week. We thank you once again. Salute to everybody out there, and of course, rest in peace to Rich Craymore. I'm saying his last name correct. Salute to that brother, man.
Cranmore.
List. And yo, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Righty.